Trevor Alonso, and this is my review of Coming to America, the sequel to 1988 comedy classic. Well, it's been 33 years since the first one came out. Does it live up to the original? Akeem is living happily ever after with his wife and 3 daughters. Unfortunately, he doesn't have an heir. His father, the king, reveals to him that he has an heir in Queens. So now Akeem must bring back his son back to Zamunda and have an heir. That's the overall plot of this movie. Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall are back in this movie, and their performances are really great. In fact, I'll just say this now, and I'll kind of shorthand it. Pretty much everybody from the original movie is back. And that's almost an understatement. From what I understand, Eddie Murphy called back everybody personally to come back for this movie. Even the original Flower Girls, Eddie called to come back. And even characters you wouldn't think would be back in this movie are back in this. In this movie, they really don't spend too much time in America. I almost feel like they should have called it something else and let us know it was still a sequel. With a title like Coming to America, you would think they would be mostly in America. It's like a good 15 minutes in America. And that's not really a spoiler. I'll get to spoilers later. Okay, so in this movie, Akeem is still a prince. Has a happy marriage and has 3 daughters. So unfortunately, he doesn't have an heir. His father, played by James Earl Jones, informs him that he has an heir in America, and he feels that if he passes, Akeem will be weak without an heir, and that he'll more likely be assassinated. After the king dies, Akeem decides to go to Queens to find his son, and he finds his son pretty much right away. He brings his son and the mother back home. He mainly does this because the king to the country next door, which is also named Nextdoria, I swear like a Nickelodeon writer wrote this, they try harder on Paw Patrol, come on. The king of that country is a general warlord named Izzy, played by Wesley Snipes, wants Akeem dead, because 30 years ago, Akeem was arranged marriage to marry his sister, and apparently she's been barking and hopping on one leg ever since. And they brought back that actress too. Wesley Snipes is amazing in this. It's actually great to see him giving a shit in a movie again. Unlike Blade 3, I have to really say everybody is giving it their all in this movie. Okay, so the rest of the movie is pretty much Akeem's son learning to be a prince and finding out his place in the world. Okay, there's a lot of throwbacks to the first movie. Some of them are great. Some of them are like, okay, I kind of had that on my checkbox. Like I wanted for a sequel for years. And some of them felt like, okay, this is kind of taking me out of the movie. Okay, I'm sure for years, a lot of people thought, okay, if they made a sequel now, it would be Akeem's son going to America looking for a bride, kind of like what his dad did. Nope. I'm really glad it's not a rehash of the first one, but then again, there were some scenes that felt like rehashes. To the point where I thought they were going to do or say one thing exactly, but it kind of changed a little bit. And don't get me wrong, I still like this movie. I still enjoyed it. It's not as bad as some 10-year-plus sequel comedies. You either have to strike when the lightning's hot, or just not do it at all. Some movies don't need a sequel. And after seeing this on Amazon, I kind of thought to myself, okay, if this was in theaters, which this was the original intention, it's just because of coronavirus they're releasing it on Amazon now. But I thought to myself, if this was in theaters, I would almost wait until it was at home, or wait for the dollar theater. I didn't think this was as good as the original, and that's kind of the problem. The original was a comedy classic. Everybody knows that one. And there's a few things in this movie that contradict the first one. Like, for example, Akeem's oldest daughter wants to be queen, and she's been training all her life for that. Akeem keeps saying throughout the movie, but it's law. I can't change that. It has to be a male heir. When the entire first movie, the entire plot is not following the whole king and queen arranged marriage law, and his dad changes it at the end, and he marries the woman that he loves. So why doesn't Akeem think, oh, well, my father changed this for me, why can't I change this for my daughter? Literally, if he did that, there wouldn't be a movie, other than him having to get his son. I mean, let's do that still. Be a responsible parent, come on. Okay, I feel like if I'm going to talk about this anymore, I better go into spoilers. This movie is on Amazon Prime, so you can literally watch this pretty much anytime you want at home. Okay, now for spoilers. Contradicting the first movie, which is really annoying since this is a comedy classic that everybody can pretty much quote. The whole explanation of how Akeem has a son, apparently the club scene from the first movie, Simi talked to two women because he was really super horny. Akeem and Simi go back to their place, and apparently Leslie Jones's character was smoking weed and blowing it into Akeem's face. Akeem, being drunk and drugged, is raped. But what's really stupid is Akeem doesn't believe he had sex. He literally believes that he was talking to her, she was blowing some herb in his face, and that a wild boar kept jumping on his lap. In the first movie, he's portrayed as a really smart prince, that he knows his ways, and that he's not dumb enough to think that, hey, a wild animal is jumping on my lap. Also, what really contradicts the first movie is, right after they leave the bar, they come across one of the barbershop guys and start talking to him about where to meet a woman. So in order for this new scene to fit in, you have to ignore the scene that comes right after the original bar scene. And on top of all of that, the princess is getting mad at Akeem when he was raped. Also, the king knew about this the entire time. Like, James Earl Jones's character knew that, oh, my son had a son, and we're not going to talk about it. It's like, what, like, why? I get they were trying to figure out a way to have, like, a whole plot to this movie, but, what? It's aggravating. Okay, another thing that is also driving the plot and contradicting the first movie is General Izzy's sister has been hopping and barking like a dog for 30 years. And at the end of this movie, it's implied that Akeem finally gave her orders to stop barking like a dog and hopping on one leg. Which kind of sounds like a jerk move. Like, seriously, we're supposed to think that he's a nice and good prince this entire time, but yet for 30 years he's like, well, I'm just gonna let her keep barking like a dog. Okay, Akeem's son keeps learning how to be a prince, and he finally becomes a prince, because they have him go through a few tests. Basically, they teach him how to be royalty. But he falls in love with a royal groomer, and they want him to marry Izzy's daughter. That way Akeem won't be assassinated. And Akeem's kind of forcing this arranged marriage. Again, contradicting the entire first movie. His son has a conversation with General Izzy's daughter, which plays pretty much the same as a barking dog scene from the first movie, to the point where he gave her an order and she kept doing it. I know she's not barking like a dog, but it might as well have been the same damn scene. He decides to run off with a groomer and go to Queens and get married, and throw his whole royal life away. Akeem finds out and goes after his son. And then once he crashes their wedding, he realizes that his son's a lot like him, and that he really shouldn't intrude on this. So then he brings them back to Zamunda, so they can get married. General Izzy at this time does try to attack, but Akeem's daughters and Arsenio Hall fight him off with sticks. Akeem sees that his daughter is worthy of becoming a queen, and changes the law, so that she will become queen if he dies, and that his son will become a royal ambassador. Okay, this is what I have to say about the cameos. They're really great, and also like, you don't have to bring back everybody from the first movie. And some of these cameos went on a little bit long. In one scene, we got Sexual Chocolate back. It was funny, but in the same scene, we get one of the twins from the bar scene. Literally, people who were in the scene for maybe 5-10 seconds back again. Okay, I don't hate this movie. I do like it and I did enjoy it, but definitely not as much as the first one. And I liked it less when I realized so much stuff in this contradicts the first movie. So I'm gonna give this movie a 6 out of 10 McDowells. That's right, McDowells, not McDonald's. Again, I have to say, everybody gave it their all. You can tell in some Eddie Murphy movies when he's just sleepwalking and kind of getting a check. Or he's like, alright, let's get this over with, I already said yes. Nope, he's at top-notch Eddie Murphy. Arsenio Hall is giving it all. Wesley Snipes is really into it. So definitely watch it for that. Thank you for watching my video. And one more thing. Just let your soul glow! Soul glow.